Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another session, installment of What I Dreamt. And for this week, we'll be diving into a dream that I am calling a sleeping android. So, if you've never seen one of these videos before, basically what I do is I talk about a dream that I had, and I dissect it and pull out any potential meaning that it might have for me. And then at the end, I offer a little something to invite someone who maybe is finding themselves in a similar energy. Something to do a little homework, journal prompts, visualization, guided meditation. It just depends on what the dream is about and what inspiration I pull from that dream. So for this week, we are diving into my sleeping android dream. Yeah. So I'm trying to mentally visualize the dream as I explain it. Basically, there was like this community of people, and it seemed like they had sort of rebuilt society after a collapse. And so there was this weird mixture of technology and, just the complete opposite. It was almost steampunk, but not steampunk. It was more futuristic than steampunk. But it was a small community, and there were all these people. And there was a woman, and she had a baby. And she just recently found the community, and it seemed like, she was fitting in well. But she overheard someone sort of complaining about the fact that there were now 2 extra mouths to feed and be responsible for. And she didn't feel right about that, and it kind of hurt her feelings, and I guess she didn't want to be a burden, so she left. But of course, she left in the middle of this insane snowstorm that was pulling in and getting worse, and no one could find her. They thought maybe she just, gotten lost somewhere in the community. And then when they realized that she had left, the man who was in charge of the community sent an android to go find her and bring her and her daughter back, So as far as the community is concerned, the android man never returned, and the woman and her baby were never seen again. They never came back either, and so no one ever knew what happened to them. And so of course there was all this speculation around what had happened, and like maybe they found another place to live and that's where they are and they're fine and all of this stuff, but nobody really knows as far as they're concerned. So the dream changed, and I guess a lot of time had passed, but basically I saw the android sleeping, and he was sort of like in a really big grassy area, and he was like covered with all this foliage. Like the land had basically claimed him because he hadn't moved for so long, and he was sleeping. And there was this tiny person that climbed all the way up to his face, and they climbed up through his hair. His hair was like really long. I know it's an android, but I know it's a robot, so they don't really grow hair. But I don't know. In my dream, his hair was really long. I would say he almost kind of looked like Lord Shiva, because of course he did, right? I'm obsessed with Lord Shiva. That's like, I always said, this is the unofficial Lord Shiva stan account. So the android had like this long hair, and this tiny person was climbing up his hair and next to his face, and they somehow woke him up. And I guess what happened was that the android had slept for so long that humanity had evolved to the point where they had gotten smaller for like survival reasons, like to be faster and, lack of resources or whatever. But everybody was like really, really tiny compared to him, because when he left, everyone was like, he was a normal sized person and like a normal sized android person. But there's this person, super tiny by comparison. So he woke up and he talks to this tiny person, and he finds out that, the community still exists and they never found the woman or her child. And so that was something that kind of made him upset. And he explained that there was something that happened with the storm, and because of the cold and the snow and all of that, it basically caused his body to go into a temporary shutdown and put him into a sleep state because he couldn't withstand the elements properly. So just ended up falling asleep. I don't know. This is a dream. And I'm also nowhere in this dream, like, at all. I'm just watching it like a movie, which is my favorite kind of dream. Because the ones where I'm in it are really intense. But these ones are sort of like watching TV. So the tiny person tells him, we can go back to the community. I'm sure they would, they would want to talk to you to find out, the history of the place, because, he was there. And of course, word of mouth and passing down stories, things get embellished and changed and lost to time. So of course they were happy to have him come back. So he goes back to the community and he's looking around at everything, and it's all so different. All the people are really small. Everything's so much smaller, but there's more people because of this. There's more space for people. And as he's walking around, he passes this android choir. And it's like a chorus of androids, like they're all sitting in rows underneath this like single spotlight. I don't think this part of the dream means anything, but it was kind of creepy, so I'm going to talk about it. But they were sitting underneath this single spotlight, and there was like 2 rows, and they were sitting. And then there was one android in the front that was sort of like a conductor. And basically the androids were singing, but their voices were like a recording, or sort of like, it sounded like it was coming from like one of those old-timey record players, like, with like the crackling background noise kind of thing. And they were singing Happy Birthday. And it was really creepy because the way that they were singing it was like, they said one line of the song, and then there was like a faint click noise, and then they stopped. And then they would sing the next line, and there was a clicking noise, and they stopped. And then they would sing again. And so I don't know what that means, but that was when I woke up, probably because it freaked me out. I don't know. That's my dream. That was the dream of the sleeping android. What was the dream about? What was the message here? Because I don't analyze every single dream that I have, but they're the ones that really stick with me. And I find that the longer I sit with them and the more that I think about them, the more that I realize there are certain aspects of the dream that could be, related to something within myself. So like this dream, on the surface level, it just seemed like a dream that was like, it's just one of those dreams you have. But I'm glad I write them all down, because I read the notes that I had taken on the dream and what I had written about it, and I realized that there was something relevant into it. So we're going to take it piece by piece. The world in and of itself, it's definitely, the whole dream just overall speaks to survival and reawakening and rebuilding after something happens, with that rebuild energy. And so the world in and of itself, clearly there was like a lot of advancement. They had androids, they had all this technological stuff, but something happened that caused all of it to break down. And there were only a few pieces that remained, and the community was building itself up around those pieces and trying to get back to some semblance of normal and then move forward to rebuild. That feels like a metaphor for my life in general. I felt like I was in a really good place, and then something happened, and now I'm trying to take those pieces that are left and rebuild it in the best way that I can. The woman and her baby. This probably points to something within myself around the idea of trust. Going to someone for help and then them helping me, but then me finding out later that they really didn't want to help me, or like they're annoyed, or they see me as a burden, and then just that feeling of fear around that I have. That's clearly what that is. Like, I know that if I had been the woman in that situation, I would have done the exact same thing. The second I heard that somebody wasn't happy about having to do anything for me, I would have removed myself and been like, you don't got to worry about it. If it's too much of a problem, I'll take care of it myself. I got it. And so it points to maybe fears that I have around never really finding a place for myself or a community where I'm actually accepted and where I belong, and where there is that mutual give and take, and it doesn't come with all of these stipulations or like that fear that they secretly resent me for having to do anything for me. Yes. The android. The fact that he went looking for the woman and the child and didn't manage to find them, and there is the chance that they died and he didn't save them. It feels like, and then he was just sleeping. It feels like potential, wasted potential within myself. Like there is something, like there's a part of me that feels like I was meant to be doing something and that I had the opportunity to do something, and then I ended up falling short of those ideas and those expectations that I had for myself. My HMEs. Okay. But I think it speaks to the fact that he does get awakened by something small, something so tiny, and then he's told when he wakes up that he would be of value to the community and that he has a place there, and that even if he didn't fulfill his original purpose, there is another purpose for him. Like he's not just, it's not a failure, a complete failure, and like he can't ever do anything else. He can have a new purpose. I could have a new purpose. I could reroute myself into something else, and I don't have to sit in that energy of feeling like I didn't do the thing that I set out to do in the first place, so now I can't do anything at all. We have the evolution of the human beings and how small they became. I looked it up, and apparently it would take millions of years for humanity to evolve to be smaller. So that speaks to the amount of time that it takes to change. And that's something that I am sitting with right now. Is I had a plan and that plan didn't work out. And so now I'm shifting into something else. And there is a part of me that is very much like, why isn't this working? Why can't I just? And maybe it's my subconscious reminding me, change takes time and it is gradual and it isn't always obvious as you're progressing through it. But once you get to that end point and you look back at where you started, you see how much change was happening all along the way, and how all of those slight little shifts and adjustments add up to something that is completely different, and something that, it adds up. That's what my mind is trying to tell me. Like, even though you feel like you're still in the same place, there are things that you probably aren't even aware of that are changing within you. Yeah. And then we have the creepy birthday song. Not completely relevant, but also, if you want to get all overly analytical and maybe overread into things, which I don't think that's what I'm doing. I think I'm just looking at all angles and appreciating every piece of information that I'm given. So it is supposed to be, happy birthday song is about, celebrating your life. That's what I know everyone hates when people are saying happy birthday to them, because they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But they're celebrating you. And I think that's where that discomfort is actually coming from. It's that not knowing how to be celebrated. But the song, the way that it was being performed was stilted and just, like I said, it was borderline creepy and uncomfortable, and it wasn't flowing the way that it should have been. And it's almost like something is off there. And so there is that idea, I guess, that's supposed to be what I'm getting out of it. That I am uncomfortable with celebrating myself and being celebrated. And that's something that I need to work on. And there are moments where I am very proud of myself and I speak highly of myself. And then there are the internal doubts that come in, and that's the pause in between each line. Like, I love myself. I think I'm great. I acknowledge and recognize all of my potential, but then because of me getting stuck on the amount of time that it's taking to get to what I want, there's the pause, because then the doubts come in, and then I start saying, this isn't going to work. I'm being stupid. This is all just pointless. And those are the stops and starts. And so it's pointing to it's a map of my progress on this self-acceptance journey and the journey of my rebirth. It's showing me, this is what you're doing. This is what it looks like. Like, this is how you look right now. Like, almost a mocking sort of thing, but genuinely done out of love. Like, genuinely saying, do you see why this isn't right? Do you see why you feel weird? Because you're not fully flowing. And I bet when I started talking about this dream, you didn't think there was anything to it. You thought it was just another dream. You thought wrong. There's always levels. If you think hard enough, anything has meaning. And that's good and bad. But we are talking about the good here. So, circling back on everything and just putting bows, lacing up to the top to get to the bow. This dream is speaking to my journey and my own personal rebirth, regeneration, whatever, reawakening, any other word you want to throw in that starts with re. There was a part of me that had a purpose and felt like it had failed at that purpose because it wasn't operating. Like the android fell asleep because they sent a mechanical object person, I don't want to call him a person, I'm going to say person, a mechanical person out into elements which are completely detrimental to the functioning of that person. So I just wasn't doing the right thing in the right place. It's like when they say trying to judge a fish by its ability to ride a bicycle. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it is today. I was a fish on a bicycle. I wasn't in the right environment to succeed or to do the thing that I was supposed to do. And I desperately wanted to do that thing, but I wasn't properly equipped to do it. And then it caused me to shut down and to go into a dormant state. And upon reawakening, learning, yeah, that other thing that you were supposed to do didn't work, but you could do this instead, and you could be really good in this place. And this is something that you could do to be helpful and to repurpose your knowledge. I'm reading a lot here. I don't know if you noticed that. There's the time shift and that aspect of the tiny, tiny, tiny person waking up the sleeping giant, that little spark that says, yeah, that other thing didn't work out, but what about this? And pointing to the length of time that it takes to change, to evolve. It's not overnight, and it's not even going to be, a couple months. It's not going to be 1 year. Everybody's different. Maybe it is for you, but the reality is change takes time. It takes a lot of time, and it's a lot of tiny little calibrations along the way. It's not just going to be instantaneous. And just because you don't see all of those little micro adjustments happening, it doesn't mean that they're not adding up to something. Also, me needing to find a place where I feel safe to rely on someone without getting into my head about whether or not they're secretly resentful or, complaining about me behind my back and saying, why is she always asking for this? Why does she need that? And just allowing myself. Because had the woman, not immediately gone to a place of, nobody wants to hear that, somebody's not happy to help them. Like, we all want to believe that if someone's helping us because they want to, and that they genuinely are looking to help, and not it's another obligation. Nobody wants to be another obligation. But had she not immediately gone into that defensive mode, maybe her and her child would have not died. I don't know that they died, but I feel like they probably did, just because if the android couldn't survive those elements, there's no way that a woman and a baby did. So it's sort of a message to myself to not necessarily get into that hurt space, and to maybe just extend grace that people are allowed to vent sometimes, and that even if they say something in a moment, that's not necessarily 100% how they feel. They're just expressing a little bit of the frustration. And I 1000% believe that if that person that she overheard knew, they would absolutely regret that they ever said it. And they would immediately say, I didn't really mean it like that. I was just, you know. And then, of course, we have the birthday song. Highlighting my halting progress along the way to celebrating myself and allowing myself to be celebrated, and clapping for my progress. Yeah. Like I said, I bet you thought this dream was just gonna be one of those silly ones that didn't really mean anything. You thought wrong. It was deep. And I also thought wrong because like I said, I wrote the dream, and this dream was from months ago. And I wrote it down, and I tried to come up with like what it could have meant, and I didn't really get anything out of it. But here I am now, months later, looking back at it and being like, yeah, okay. There was a message. There was something I was working on and speaking to myself about, and I wasn't initially aware. That in and of itself is a lesson. Even if it doesn't seem like a lesson at the time, guaranteed somewhere down the line you're going to look back at it and say, that was a lesson. Anyway, that was my dream. That was my analysis. I will be sharing down below a journal prompt and visualization exercise to allow you to think about where you are maybe the sleeping giant, the tiny climber, or the woman and child, and where you maybe are fighting your own flow. Yeah. So, with that, I will say thank you so much for sitting with me and analyzing my dream. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully something resonated with you. And if you like this video, please throw your girl a little likey like on the bottom. If you would like more videos about me describing weird dreams, subscribe. I also have yoga videos. I have meditation videos. I sing, I dance, I cook, I freestyle. There's a ton of different kinds of videos on this channel. Subscribe if you are interested in any of it. If you would like to see more of me being, I don't know, me? Anyway, thank you for sitting with me. Enjoy your weekend, and I hope that you are well. Sweet dreams. Ooh.